Now, what happens when, during repair, you need to consume a spare part for a service item that consists out of components? There are two things that you basically can do. First option is to track the change. So you have a service item with a component list. You are using a spare part for repair. Then you can either add that spare part as a new component to the component list, or you can replace an existing component in the component list of the service item. The other option is that you say, well, I'm going to ignore it, and that means that, well, you're going to use a spare part for your repair, but that spare part will not have any impact at all on the component list of your service item. So I made a new service order for the Canon group, and on the lines I did enter a service item bicycle, and that service item bicycle has a component list. So let's check bicycle, let's check component list, and here you see two components, the front wheel and a back wheel. Now, let's assume that I'm going to register some consumption here for this service order. So I go to my service lines and I'm going to register a service consumption of the type item. I'm going to use a specific spare part, and immediately when I do this, NAV is going to ask me whether I want to replace this component or when I want to add this as a new component or ignore this. So the first two questions are basically, you want to trace that something happened to your component list. What is it? Is the spare part going to replace an existing component, or do you want to add the spare part as a new component? And the last option is to ignore. Now in this scenario, what I'm going to do is just click on new component and I click on OK. Then I'm going to fill in, I'm going to remove the location. I'm going to fill in a quantity, and then you can see that as of this moment here, you will have quantity to ship 1 and quantity to invoice also filled in as 1. If I close this now, and if I'm going to check my service item to see what happened with the component list, then the result will be that nothing happened. So let's check that. I take my bicycle, again I take the component list, and here you see I still have my two components. There is no third component added here. And why is that? Because nothing of the consumption has been posted yet. So at this moment we just registered some consumption, but we did not post any consumption. Let's try and do that. So I'm going to post the consumption. I'm going to ship it. I don't need to invoice it. I click on OK, and then the transaction is taking place. So let's have a look here. If quantity shipped is 1, yeah, quantity shipped is 1. Then we're going to check back on our service item. Let's have a look here. So service item 59. Let's have a look on the component list again. We should have 3 components now, and you can see front wheel, back wheel, and spokes. So on this date, we have actually a new component which was added. And you can also always check that to go to navigate, and you see here a replaced list. And let's have a look for all lines what has happened. In this case, you don't find anything here because there is nothing replaced. So this is important to see. If you check that history, it's only for replacements. It's not when you add new components, it's just for replacements. And then you can see whether or not the front wheel or the back wheel has been replaced with a new component. That's something we're going to check in the next scenario. So let's assume that again, I'm going to register a repair and the usage of a spare part for my bicycle. But in this case, I'm not going to add a new, I'm not going to add a new component, but I'm going to replace an existing component. So which one am I going to replace? So I can select now the front wheel, the back wheel, or the spokes, and I'm going to replace the spokes. So I click on OK. Of course, you know now that nothing has happened. First of all, I need to post the shipment here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to post the shipment and then check if quantity shipped is 1, which it is. So then I'm going to check again my service item and see what happened with it. So let's check the component list here. And I have now a front wheel, a back wheel, and a front hub. So clearly my spokes are replaced by a front hub. And if I'm going to check now the replaced list, and I'm going to take this line. So what you see is that previously there were spokes, and now it is replaced. So you see that the history of what this component was before it was replaced is here kept in the replaced list. So this was an example where we replaced an existing component with a new one. And then of course the final option is to ignore the change because of the spare part, which means that you're going to consume the spare part. It will become a cost, but it will have no impact on this component list.